my name is Alan, and welcome to another episode of Simple Tools. Today, we're going to make something staying on the shaving theme. I'm going to make a strop. So this is the finished strop. It's a piece of denim with two leather ends. Added a little design element. You know, I always think like if you make something, you should make it your own. Let's get started and I'll show you how I made this strop for a razor. Alright, so here's a piece of leather that I have, and a piece of denim. I bought the denim at Mood Fabric here in New York, and actually I found the leather as part of a couch that I salvaged from the streets of Brooklyn. You can just see me cutting off a little piece of vinyl. So the final dimension I think was 4 inches wide for the strip of leather. So when you fold it over, you have 2 inches on each side. And there it is. So I wet it down the middle and folded it and then pressed it overnight using popsicle sticks and binder clips so that in the morning it was nice and folded. And that's just a little design element I sewed together. So yeah, you put it on the inside and I clipped down the seam, and there I am sewing the seam on my Janome Mod 19 sewing machine. Love that thing. Just a simple stitch. You see I went back and forth just to end it. And then once the seam is sewed, just flip it inside out. And there you go. See, there's the little piece I added just for fun, just to make it look cool. You know, they say the Tour de France is won in bed, which means resting between the next stage. Well, sewing is won at the ironing board. Anytime you sew something, it's so key to iron it out and make it sit perfectly. The same way I folded over those 2 leather strips. So there's the finished sewn and ironed piece of denim. Now I'm just taking the clips and popsicle sticks off the leather. And that, I think that either sat for 1 or 2 days, I don't remember, but you have to let it sit enough to dry. And you can see you don't have to fight with it as you keep it folded. It just stays really nice. So I'm cutting it to the final width here, which is right about 4 inches. You want to custom fit it to your own piece of denim once it's sewn and ironed. I just fit it, and you see me make a little mark there with my fingernail. That's just to see where to cut it again. It's important to get it square. That is my headlamp. It's kind of a crappy one, rechargeable, but really helps you see what you're doing. So if you see that spotlight, it's just my headlamp. All right, fitting it, fits good. S18 all-purpose cement. So this is a contact cement, so you need to put it on all the sides you want to glue together. So I'm going to put it on both sides of the denim and then the inside of the leather pieces. And then you let it dry. They say to let it dry for about 10 minutes. You can do less. You don't want to over dry it. But once it gets a little bit tacky, man, it sticks really good. And the beauty of this glue also is that the bond increases over time. So if you stick it together and then kind of hammer it down and let it sit for a while, it'll only get stronger. So I'm just lining it up there with the ends. Yeah, looks about good. There you go. Alright, so both ends are glued and assembled, and now it's just time to stitch it. So that is called a wing divider, and I set it to like a little bit over an eighth of an inch. You see me measuring it there. When I sew leather, I usually sew right at an eighth of an inch, but I gave this one a little bit of a bonus, just so it will be a little bit away from the seam on either side. So I'm going to sew 3 sides now that it's all measured, and that is a 4mm stitching prong that you just hammer through all the layers there, and it makes it easier to stitch. So hit it there with the hammer. So you can see that I lined up the first hole with the corner. So where it goes from where the two sides meet, I lined up the corner and with the first prong. And then I line up the other corner with the other prong. And I kind of got lucky on this project because, as you see when I come across here, the first hole lines up with the last hole. So that doesn't always happen. So you kind of have to either split the difference or have a wider stitch, but got lucky here. So I'm just measuring it again, taking out the 3 prong. So that was, I think, a 6 prong. Now I got a 3 prong. And I'm just going to run it up the end just to complete the holes. Cool thing about that hammer too is I made the hammer. It's actually melted down number 2 plastic, which is like milk jug plastic, and I melted it into a can with a wooden dowel down the middle, and makes a great hammer. You know, they say never hit a metal tool with a metal hammer, so the mallet works pretty good. Just doing the other side there, lining it up. All right, now it's time to stitch. So the way you measure your thread is you go either 3 or 4 times the stitch length. So I'm starting at one end, measuring it around, and then I'm just doubling it up on itself. So that's 2 times the stitch length, 3 times, 4 times, and I cut a little extra. I ended up with more extra than I wanted, but it's better that than running a little short there. And the stitch method is called double needle. So you start by evening out the thread, so half is on each side at the first hole, and then you go in one side on with one needle, just putting the second needle on. You go in one side and the next hole, in one side, pull it a little bit tight, and then you go in the same hole with the other side. And so this is called a saddle stitch. And then once you get both through, you don't have to pull it really tight, but you just have to pull it tight enough, take out the slack. This whole stitch took about 10 minutes, so I think I speed it up here and go all the way around. There we go, just go in the same hole. The trick is, if once you get it in one side, you kind of pull the thread back, and that opens up the hole so that you can get in at the front of the hole with the other needle. So there I am going back and forth all the way around. And then once I get to the end, I go back 1 stitch with 1 needle, and then I go back 2 stitches with the other needle so that both threads are on the same side. So that's 1, pull that tight, and then 2. So the last needle, you go 2 stitches, and then you cut it. So that's a little magnet I made, sandwiched in between 2 pieces of leather. There you go. Then you cut it, and you get about 1/8 of an inch, and just hit it with the lighter. Just a little melty. There you go. Smush it down. It's done. Then you can see how it looks okay on both sides. Once you get it done, I like to hammer down the stitch, and that just closes the holes and makes the general stitch line lay a little flatter, just look a little better. It kind of evens it all out. All right, you just sew up the other side, and then you are done. Look at that. All right, so now that it's done, let me show you how it works. So again, this is my Henson AL13. Still liking it. I did cut myself once or twice with it, but other than that, it's been pretty great. Inside, I have a feather blade, and let's see how this goes. So I know that people think that, like, sometimes the first shave from a blade is not necessarily the best one. It's like after you kind of break it in a little bit, but let's see how it goes. So the way I understand you do it is you just rub it back and forth, just kind of a sweeping motion. Just kind of strop it up just a little bit. Let's try the other side. Careful not to cut yourself. That should be enough. So I've already used this blade a couple of times, and let's see how it feels. I did also just shave, so. You know, it is a little sharper. Well, so stropping your blade accomplishes a couple things. It makes the blade sharper, and it takes the little, by taking the little burrs off the end of the blade, and it extends the life of your blade. So I know I said in the last video, these blades cost about $0.10, which is true. And you get 3 or 4 shaves on it. So I bet with a strop, you could either extend the life of your blade and also, you know, get it to the right sharpness that you like. All right, so here's the strop. And I also wanted to mention that when I'm done with a blade, I don't just throw it in the trash. I made this blade disposal unit. I put the Shave Nation sticker on it. It's where I've been getting my blades. Putting your blade in a disposal unit is extremely important. You never know who's going to be handling the trash, going through the trash, pets, children, sanitation workers. It's really important that you put the blades in something secure. And in the next video, I'll show you how I made this. So that's it for Simple Tools. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.